The creepiest 911 call that still has no explanation. On February 24, 2012, a 911 dispatcher in Washington State received a call that she would never forget. The call lasted just under 4 minutes. The audio has been analyzed by audio engineers, forensic experts, and law enforcement agencies across the country. And to this day, nobody can explain what happened on that call. I am going to tell you exactly what was recorded. I am going to tell you what the investigation found, and I am going to let you decide what was real and what was not. But I will warn you, this one is different. This one has details that are hard to shake. Details that will sit in the back of your mind tonight when you are trying to fall asleep. So if you are easily disturbed, turn this off now. Still here? Good. Let me tell you about the call that came from a house on a quiet street in a small town that no one had ever heard of before. The dispatcher answered the line. Standard greeting, 911. What is your emergency? At first there was silence, not dead air, not a disconnected line. Someone was there. The dispatcher could hear breathing, slow, steady, deliberate. She repeated the greeting. 911, what is your emergency? Then a voice spoke. It was a male voice. Older, hoarse. The kind of voice that sounds like it has not been used in a long time. He said, I need help. The dispatcher asked for the address. The man gave it. Slowly, each word separated by a long pause, as if he was struggling to remember where he lived. The dispatcher asked what the emergency was. The man said, there is something in my house. She asked him to clarify. An intruder? An animal? What did he mean? The man said, I don't know what it is, but it has been here for 3 nights, and tonight it is in the room with me. The dispatcher kept her voice calm. She asked the man to describe what he was seeing. He said, it is tall. It is very tall. It is standing in the corner. It is not moving. But it is watching me. She asked if the figure was holding any weapons. The man said no. She asked if he could see a face. He said he could not. He said the figure was too dark, darker than the shadows around it, as if it was made of darkness itself. The dispatcher asked if he could leave the room safely. The man said he could not. He said the door was behind the figure. He said he was trapped. At this point, the dispatcher signaled to a nearby patrol car. Officers were dispatched to the address. The dispatcher stayed on the line. She asked the man his name. He told her. She asked if he lived alone. He said yes. She asked if he had been drinking or taking any medication. He said no. Then the man's breathing changed. It became faster, shallow, panicked. He whispered. It moved. The dispatcher asked what happened. The man said the figure had turned its head, just slightly, just enough to know that it was aware of him. He said, it knows I am on the phone. It does not like it. The dispatcher told him to stay calm. She told him officers were minutes away. She told him to keep talking to her. The man said, it is coming closer. Then the audio becomes difficult to describe. There is a sound on the recording, a low, vibrating hum. It does not sound like anything mechanical. It does not sound like an animal. It sounds like a voice speaking a language that does not exist. And then the man screamed. Not a short scream, not a startled yell, a full, prolonged, primal scream. The kind of scream that comes from somewhere deep in the chest. The kind of scream that means something terrible is happening. The line went dead. Officers arrived at the house 4 minutes later. The front door was unlocked. They announced themselves and entered. The house was empty, not just empty of an intruder, empty of the man. His wallet was on the kitchen counter. His car was in the driveway. His television was still on. A half-eaten meal sat on the coffee table, still warm. But the man was gone. They searched every room, every closet, the attic, the basement. There was no sign of forced entry, no sign of a struggle, no sign of the figure the man had described. What they did find was strange enough to warrant a full investigation. In the bedroom where the man had been during the call, the carpet was disturbed. Not just wrinkled, it was as if something heavy had been dragged across it. But the drag marks did not lead to the door. They led to the corner of the room, the exact corner the man had described as containing the figure. And the marks stopped at the wall. There was no door there, no window, no opening of any kind. Just a blank wall with the drag marks ending abruptly, as if whatever was being dragged had simply passed through the solid surface. The officers took photographs. They collected evidence. They interviewed neighbors. Nobody had seen anything unusual. Nobody had heard a scream. One neighbor reported that their dog had been barking non-stop for 3 nights in a row. But that was all. The investigation went on for weeks. The man's face was put on missing person posters. His family was interviewed. His friends, his co-workers. He had no history of mental illness, no enemies, no debts, no reason to disappear. He had simply been erased. The 911 recording was analyzed by audio experts. The strange humming sound was isolated. It did not match any known frequency pattern. It did not correspond to any language. One analyst described it as structured noise, something that had the organization of speech but none of the recognizable components. The case remains unsolved. Now, skeptics will tell you that the man was mentally ill, that he was hallucinating, that he fabricated the call and then left his house intentionally, perhaps through a back door that the officers missed. But that does not explain the drag marks. That does not explain the warm food on the table. That does not explain the voice on the recording, a voice that sounds genuinely, viscerally terrified. A voice that does not belong to someone playing a prank. And that does not explain the hum. Because here is something that the news reports do not tell you. In the months following the incident, other people in the same town began reporting similar experiences. Waking up in the middle of the night to find a tall, dark figure standing in the corner of their bedroom. Not moving. Not speaking. Just watching. And then, after 3 nights, disappearing entirely. One woman reported that her husband woke up on the 3rd night and saw the figure standing directly beside their bed, looking down at him. He closed his eyes and prayed. When he opened them, the figure was gone. But his wife said he was never the same after that night. He became withdrawn. Paranoid, he refused to sleep in the bedroom. They moved out of the house 6 months later. Another man reported that he tried to speak to the figure. He asked it what it wanted. He said the figure did not answer with words, but he felt something enter his mind. An image, a place, a dark landscape with no sky and no ground. A voice that was not a voice telling him that he belonged to something now. He refused to repeat what else he saw. What is happening in this small Washington town? Is it mass hysteria? A shared delusion? Or is there something real behind it? Something that appears only at night. Something that watches. Something that waits. Something that took a man from his bedroom and left nothing behind but a scream and a few drag marks on a carpet. I do not have the answer, but I will leave you with this. If you ever wake up in the middle of the night and see a figure standing in the corner of your room, do not reach for your phone. Do not try to speak to it. Do not let it know you are awake. Because the man in Washington made that mistake, and no one has seen him since. Sleep well.